morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be hosting this workshop this morning. The title of our training program today is Managing Board Meetings and Minutes Writing. These are very crucial and important function of any corporate governance practitioner, especially a secretary. Therefore, we have deemed it fit to bring a highly qualified person who has great interest in capacity building to talk to us this morning. Our distinguished facilitator is Mrs. Sophia Abiri Franklin. She is the managing partner at Georgetown Solicitors. Before saying much about Mrs. Abiri Franklin, I want to stress the fact that she's a strong believer in capacity development, and this she has demonstrated through her different activities as a member of the Institute. Madam, you are welcome to this program. Now, let's know.
Thank you very much.
Yes, let's know a little bit more about Mrs. Sophia Abiri Franklin. She attended the prestigious University of Lagos, where she did a master's program in law. She is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria and its equivalent in the United Kingdom. She is also a chartered arbitrator. She is a member of the Nigerian Bar Association, and she's also a member of the Federation of International Women Lawyers. Mrs. Abiri Franklin has experience covering different and wide areas of legal practice, but her key area and focus in recent times has been in the area of power and energy, tax administration, arbitration, and of course, general issues of corporate governance, just to mention a few.
Hello.
Participant to listen closely to guidance and advice on this subject, and we have shared some of your initial queries, comments, and challenges around this topic with her, and she's told us she'll be considering this and commenting and providing guidance and expatiation as she delivers her paper. It's my pleasure this morning to, as it were, invite and hand over the mic to Mrs. Sophia Abiri Franklin to take us on the subject of board meetings, its management, and minute writing. You are welcome, madam. Good morning, ma'am. The floor is yours.
Good morning, sir. Thank you very much. I'm trying to see if I can view the faces of our participants. And unfortunately, I'm not seeing anybody's face, and everybody has blocked their views. But it's my pleasure being here this morning. And we'll start right away because the time is ticking very fast. And hoping that we'll have a pleasant time together this morning. Our training topic is managing board meetings and minute writing. I don't know, I would like this webinar to be very interactive. I believe that the participants are mostly chartered secretaries. So I would like to know if one or two persons can unmute and tell me one or two expectations that I know that the questions have been sent, but I've not seen them. So if you can post some of the issues, that would be nice. But I want to see one or two, three persons post. You can quickly post it, or you can unmute and say what your expectations are from today's webinar. What is the one or two, three things you think you have paid, you've come to learn at the end of this training? I should be able to do this, from how to manage board meetings and then minute writing. Can someone share?
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Your name, please?
I am Chiwendu Ezeribe.
Okay.
Okay, I want to ask a question on...
Can you please enable your video while asking questions so that others can see you? Thank you.
Hello?
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Can I do without my video because the place I am in is unconducive.
Okay.
Go ahead, please go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, during board meetings, most times you have resolutions, which are like decisions which are taken in a board meeting. Take for instance, let's take for instance for board of trustees of an NGO. Okay. When they write, for instance, for amendment of constitution, there's a resolution by the board of trustees to amend the constitution. Now, if you want to draft the resolution, is it by ordinary resolution or is it simple resolution? Special resolution, sorry.
Hello. Your name is Ezeribe, right?
Yes, Ezeribe Chiwendu.
Okay, Ezeribe, thank you very much for your question. I will know that. I want to get one more from another person. And remember, the question is one of the things I like to know, one of your expectations for this training. I just want two other persons to tell me. So okay. I want to check out that you have expectations. Yes, Tosin.
Oluwatosin Yabo Fagbule.
Yes.
My expectation is to be able to handle effective minute writing. That's why I'm here. That's my expectation.
Thank you very much. Tosin wants to be able to handle effective minute writing after this webinar. Oh, Tosin, I love your red top.
Thank
Lovely.
you. Thank you.
Okay, can I ask a question? Let me ask a question. Good morning.
Who is asking? What's the name, sir?
My name is David.
Mr. David. Okay,
yes.
Mr. David, okay. That will be the last before we start.
Okay, in a board.
Your expectation, please, from this training.
I want to know, how do you handle a board that makes you to feel irrelevant, that you are not part of us, you are just a secretary here? That yours is to write minutes and produce minutes. How do you handle the, let's say, the emotions and other things in such a board, or how do you handle such a board that makes you feel irrelevant and not part of the board?
Thank you very much. Thank you. This is just exactly what I want to get. Ine, I'm seeing some.
Yes,
is that Ine?
Yes, it's Ine, please.
Okay.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Yes, I'd like to just note my expectation. I actually did send it through the, when I was filling out, yes. No, when I was filling out the form for the, when you're registering, I mean. Anyway, I think with the COVID, there's been a lot of changes in the way things are being done. I mean, we have the CAMA 2020 that has also allowed virtual filings, virtual resolutions, virtual meetings. So I think a lot of innovation is now needed for company secretaries to be able to handle boards. So I would like to, my expectation from this meeting is being able to handle boards, board meeting with the way, in an innovative way, virtual, you know, in line with all the virtual resolutions, virtual signings, for example, when you need to sign a document, you know, so how can you do that in a very effective manner? That's what I would like to get from this training.
Thank you very much, Ine. I've also noted Tobechi's question. I think Tobechi said he or she wants to know the salient information to be contained in board minutes of board meetings. She wants to know the salient information to be contained, as it said, it's what each director says on, is it what each director says for decisions, resolutions of the board? So she wants to know. Thank you very much. We'll go right away. I thank you very much for all the people that responded to my question on the expectation. It's just to see, I want to, I'm happy because I know that you did not just come here probably because you were sponsored or you just want to attend, but because indeed you identified a need, you identified a knowledge gap, and you know that by the time you come, you want to learn something. I've noted your questions, I've noted your expectations. At the end of the training, I'm hoping that all these issues would have been answered. Probably towards the end, we'll still have time for question and answer. So as I go on, you can post your questions on the chat, because we may not do that until I ask any other thing. And then at the end, we'll review the training so far. Thank you very much. We'll start right away. I have a slide. I'm attempting to share my slide from this end. Admin, I don't know if I can be able to share my slide, or will it be easier and better for you to share from that end?
You can actually share. If you are having any challenge, you can send it to me in a minute, and then I'll share it.
I've forwarded the slide to me. You have the slide.
Okay, fine. Don't worry. I'll pick it up from there. I'll pick it up.
Okay, can we go to the next slide? Managing board meetings. Part 1. So then, because the training has been divided into 2 parts, and the first part of this training is going to deal with managing board meetings. And then the second part is going to talk about effective minute writing. I was very happy when I saw Tobeshi's expectation that she wants to know the salient information to be contained in a board meeting. Excellent. I'm happy because I know it's going to be dealt with. Ina wants to know to be able to handle board meeting in an innovative way. Beautiful. And Tosi also, Mr. David wants to know how to handle board, a chairman or directors that makes the secretary feel very small. And Isabel has some questions to ask as to various resolutions and different types of how to go about filing different types of resolutions. So we just go to definitions. It talks about management. These are basic. It says is the act or skill of dealing with people or situation in a successful way. One of the things you need to note immediately from this training is board writing. They are theory based. But one thing you need to know from this training is that the issue of managing board meetings, apart from the basic rudiments you get, the formula you get from this, you need to apply yourself a whole lot. If you look at this definition, it says it's the act or skill of dealing with people or situation in a successful way. So you already have the knowledge. You've gone to school, you have become chartered, you have the knowledge. But guess what management is about now? The act, the skill. Dealing with one of the things you want to apply in this training today, the part 1 and part 2, it's about tact. Your emotional intelligence will have to come into play in managing your board meetings. Let's see what the next slide is saying. It's telling you that board meeting is a formal periodic gathering of board of directors. I believe we all know that. It's a meeting of board of directors as the policy and major decisions as to its future are being discussed. And Ezeribe was talking about resolutions, and she mentioned board of trustees. So you know that when we talk about board meetings, it may not necessarily be board of directors. It may be a committee board, it may be a parastatal board, a government agency. The basic thing is it's a formal gathering, periodic gathering, where things are discussed and things are to be executed in a set way. And of course, one major thing you need to know, the reason why this topic came up, to manage, how do you even manage board meetings, is because of execution. There are a lot of resolutions that want to be taken, decisions want to be taken, and actions needs to be taken. And you can't just take actions in a formal setting without certain resolutions, decisions being documented. And that's why the board meetings are called. And the reason why that's why the board meetings are called, and how to manage it. And that is what we want to talk about today. The next slide, please. Why do we need to manage board meetings in the first place? Management means to manage a situation or control events in a place. In this case, our focus is board meetings. And to effectively manage board meetings as a company secretary, you must be able to execute your role and responsibilities in a way that the purpose of the meeting is achieved timeously. Please, next slide. There's a way where you have to get to know yourself, your role, responsibilities. You need to know how to manage board meetings. If, assuming you do not know your role, you can be easily pushed aside on the board. There's a way you carry yourself. If you begin to show that you do not even know what you are doing, there's no way you can manage a board meeting. If you come unprepared, there's no way you can manage. There are different types of board meetings. Of course, you have examples of different kind of meetings you want to talk about here. You have full board of directors, you have committee meetings, and I think Ezeribe was talking about board of trustees meetings. Even most of us belong to churches and mosques, different organizations, NGO, group association, alumni association. You have different types of meetings. The reason, the aim is the same, is to manage people, manage processes. One of the key things you need to note in your management of board meeting is the notice. The notice of the meeting is very, very important. Now, the notice of the meeting would depend on the type of meeting. For instance, if it's a normal board, just say a board of directors meeting, you can come and say, okay, 7 days, 24 hours. The MD can even talk to 1 or 2, 3 directors, inform the company secretary. Can we have a meeting? There's an emergency. Once there's consensus, once everybody agrees there's a concession as to the short notice, that meeting can hold. But there are statutory provisions for certain meetings. For instance, if you have an AGM, you have to note the statutory provisions for the number of days and how to go about it. So these are part of it. You have to, one notice of meeting is very important. If a notice is not properly sent, it can invalidate a meeting. I need you to note that in the form of any of your meetings you are managing, you have to note the apologies and acknowledgement of receipts of notice of meeting, because it may become very handy. Most of the things we are saying here may look basic. Say, of course, very soon we'll talk about an agenda, but the reason why this notice is very important is because when there are disputes, if there's, in case of anything, the issue of notice could be a technical issue that a shareholder can pick on and say, because of this thing, because of the issue of the notice that was not properly said, the meeting is invalid, and they'll pick that point and invalidate the meeting. So as little as the issue of notice, you have to note this down somewhere for you to manage your meetings. How is it meeting being constituted? Is there proper notice sent? You have to note that. Then you have to be prepared. Be prepared. If you see the way I started this training, I said from the definition about the act or skill, it's an emotional thing, it's a psychological thing. Whatever you have learned in school, oh yes, you know it. But when you are coming for a board meeting, it's another ball game entirely. What you know, your laws and everything is in your head. You have to be prepared psychologically and all. You can see someone, I'm sure the person that asked that, the gentleman that asked that question about how to react in a board that makes you feel irrelevant, already probably has some kind of experience, or he has heard of stories of how the company secretary can be made to feel really small on a board. So when I say be prepared, be prepared. You have to be prepared individually and as a secretariat team. Now, depending on how you are practicing, you may be working solo as a company secretary for a committee, a church organization, a board of trustees, or you may be part of a secretariat team of an organization or a chartered secretary firm, a secretariat firm, an accounting firm, a law firm that renders secretariat practices. You need to be prepared individually as a team. If you are the only person going for the board meeting, your own role, your level of preparation is going to be double. But if you are preparing, if you are going for that board meeting as a team, it may depend on the organization, it may be a team of 5, it may be a team of 6, it may be a team of 3. Then you have to be prepared as a team to know, oh, who is handling this role? What about the venue? Who is taking this? You have to be prepared. As a company secretary, you are Mr. Know-it-all, prim and proper. You are the custodian of everything. They want, you are the go-to for information. You are the go-to. They want to, if the place is not conducive enough, it is a company secretary. So when I say be prepared, we're going to just go a little deep. But I've told you, you have to be prepared psychologically and physically before the meeting. Of course, you have to be comfortable. You have to be dressed in a very relaxed way, a comfortable way, because the meeting may be a long meeting. You don't want to come and you are looking all tight up, very uncomfortable. No, you have to be prepared. If you know you are the type like me, when I'm stressed and I've not taken something, I start having headaches. When personally for my meetings, because I'm used to very, very long meetings. And there was a day, I think recently, that was July last year or so, I took it for granted and I went to a meeting, long hours. By the time we are done, my system couldn't hold it. I couldn't hold it. I started throwing up. So you need to understand yourself. You don't take things for granted. If you know you are the type that after 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, you feel stressed, you get your water. When I say be prepared physically, psychologically, is a whole lot. Is a 360 degree. In fact, only that be prepared physically and psychologically is a team that I can talk about for the next 1 hour. So I just want you to underline that, note that, and think about it, that there are a lot of things you need to prepare yourself, because the meeting can turn in a way you do not understand. I, for one, have attended a board meeting, I think some years ago. Then I was even pregnant. And the meeting was adjourned 3-4 times. In one day, at the end of the day, we ended up sleeping in the hotel. It wasn't planned. When the chairman saw how the meeting was going, he said, you know what, let's book hotel for everybody. I think that was in Radisson. And we ended up sleeping. That meeting held till 2 a.m. or 3. That was when we finished it. A meeting was commenced at 10 a.m. It was adjourned on 2, 3, 4 occasions because there were a lot of heated arguments that came up. And we just needed to douse the situation. And so we adjourned and adjourned and adjourned until we're able to calm down and resolve. So you really need to be prepared. You know that you're going for a meeting, anything can happen, and you may be prepared with different kind of scenarios, depending on the topic, on the issues on the agenda. Then one of the things that is very important for you to be prepared is the board papers. You have to, one way for you to get this properly done is to have a checklist of all the documents to be included in the to be circulated at 7 days to the meeting. You have to, the only way you can get your board papers together, your checklist correct, is to have an agenda long before the meeting. A meeting, you come and you say you want to manage a meeting, and 2 hours to the meeting or 30 minutes to the meeting, that's when you're writing an agenda. You can be sure that that meeting, you will not be able to manage it, because you have a lot of surprises being sprung on you, and you may not be able to handle that kind of meeting. So as a company secretary, you have to be prepared. Your agenda is your agenda that will guide you. You need to work with the chairman to get the agenda sorted. And it's the agenda that will now determine the kind of documents that will be available that you prepare and circulate for the meeting. For instance, everybody was talking about resolutions. Assuming this is the meeting where you want to approve that the change of office of that organization, maybe board of trustee, before that meeting, you ought to have gotten your facts right. You ought to have gotten the address and everything. And the documents for that, oh, in this meeting, this is what we'll do. It's not in that meeting. You will now start looking for how to draft soft copy and say, what's the address of the new office? No, you have to be prepared. Then the venue, the next thing is to prepare the venue. Is it going to be a physical or virtual venue? I think who asked the question, I think it's Ine that said she wants to be able to handle board meeting in an innovative way. In the wake of COVID, a lot of things has happened. Meetings are now being held hybrid, meetings are now being held purely virtual, and meetings are now being held physical. So you have to note that we're going, because of time, we're going to run. The next slide, please. I've spoken about it before. It has to be intellectually stimulating. Of course, you do not have to choose a place whereby there are dim lights. It has to be somewhere, just note that you have to have your bright lights. The venue should be conducive. Your lighting is very, very important. You know, one thing about light and atmosphere of a meeting, it regulates your mood. It regulates your mood. If you go to a night party, a dinner, you find out that the lights are dim. You come for a meeting, you want to discuss, you want to quickly take decisions, you want an environment that will stimulate you. You have to be able to get the environment right to be very conducive. Refreshments, oh yes, water is compulsory. Whether that meeting is 2 seconds, water must be there. And there are global rules. I've checked and I've stumbled somewhere over the years that there are global meeting rules. And one of the rules I found out that if it's within an hour, any meeting, water is a must. But once your meeting is spilling above 2 hours, you get your water and your snacks. And then for physical meetings, you have to know your board. Depending on the age grade, the kind of things, assorted kind of refreshments. If your boards are like 50, 60, 70s, you know that you need to have your bitter cola, you need to have your garden eggs, your apples. They will like fruits and grapes. Note all that. And then if they are middle-aged people, you know that at some point they may want to eat. Depending on the duration and the venue of your meeting, you may want to break for lunch and they come back. So depending on the business of the day, this is a board meeting, this is a committee meeting that you're going to spend long hours, you should be able to plan the agenda in a way that, okay, is it that as they're just coming, they're having lunch, a breakout session, and they're entering into the meeting for about 4 hours, or but it's very unprofessional to have a straight meeting for 4, 5, 6 hours. It will be very wrong. You have some meetings where you find that some directors are even sleeping off. It is very wrong. So you have to know your body. If you are going to have a physical meeting, you have to prepare. You probably may need to want to consider getting tea, coffee, juice, fresh juice, things that will stimulate them. So once you notice someone is sleeping, you just prompt them. Of course, you must have had if it's gum or cola or something in front of them that will stimulate them so that you have a productive meeting. What about if it's a virtual meeting? Of course, before we talk about virtual, I think it's Madam Ine that asked that question. Yes, COVID has changed a lot of things, but we know that our board, some of our directors have not changed. Some of our chairmen have not changed. So you as company secretary, what steps can you make to ensure that that's your chairman, to ensure that that board, the members of those committees that you want to welcome to attend a virtual meeting with you, you have to take the responsibility to train them. You have to, oh yes. You can't say, oh, right now things have changed. This is COVID. Have you asked them whether they actually have the knowledge to handle the Zoom or the Google Meet or the Teams or the Skype, depending on the platform? You have to ask them. It's your responsibility as company secretary to find out one-on-one. And that's why we're going to discuss that at some point. As company secretary, you should prepare, intentionally plan to have good relationship with all the members of the board, members of the committee. I know it's not easy. There are some people that will be difficult. You have some directors, you call, they will never reply you. But you have to just be diplomatic. You have to try. You have to, from the beginning, I had said you have to be prepared psychologically. So to even become a company secretary in the first place, it's a whole lot. You get to find out as you go into the practice. So for you to want to say you want to host a virtual meeting, let's say this director is in Canada, and then you have to begin to consider the time difference. You want to host a meeting and it's 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. his time. Have you gotten his consent? Is he going to be awake, come to the meeting with a pajamas, with sleepy eyes? So these are part of the increased cases you need to talk about. So you need, because when you're doing virtual meeting, you need to be sure of the members' location. It will guide the time. So by the time you have taking everything into consideration, the location as to whether the internet network is stable, you now agree as to, do you want to have a virtual meeting? Are some people going to be maybe hybrid? Some people are going to be in a particular location, and then some people that are outside the state or wherever, they can dial in. Those are part of the things you want to consider. Then another thing you need to prepare. Remember, we're talking about preparations. How to manage board meeting. You need to prepare. It's like telling you, how do I pass JAM? Before that main exam, you are a lot of preparation you need to do. And that's what we're talking about. Because it's your preparation that makes you to be able to have that meeting, and it's seamless. The board meeting itself is not so much. But what is going to make your meeting count, to be able to know, for you to be able to know, achieve an effective board meeting, is what you do before, basically before the meeting and after the meeting. Because during the meeting, all you are going to be doing is to be managing them, emotional intelligence, to be looking at their eyes, to be taking your notes. The preparations you do before the meeting is very, very important. And then after the meeting, we're going to be talking about that shortly. So I said you need to prepare the chairman, the managing directors, and other directors. In most cases, you may likely do a dry run of the meeting with the agenda before the meeting. Next slide, please. What do I mean by dry run? Depending on the agenda, there are some meetings whereby the agenda is the agenda item for discussion is a very turbulent one. You that you are company secretary, you should be matured, you should be experienced. And I beg to say, in terms of maturity, it is not in age. Yes, if you are like me, that you probably started practice when you were in your 20s, very young. One of my first board meetings that I anchored, I had chairmen, I had board members that were former military governors, kings, like, you can imagine someone like Obatudeko, that kind of personality. I have big people. And you can imagine me then. I was just feeling like this. And I can imagine how I wear my suit and I'll just fit into the chair, looking very clean. And then in the course of the meeting, when they are digressing on certain issues, I'll be like, hello, sir, I'll draw their attention. Of course, they'll tell me stop recording, and I'll tell them there is an issue. This issue we are discussing now, this is the legal implication. So whenever they are going off tandem, I always want to draw them, irrespective of whether they are 60 years old, 70 years old, or they are generals or whatever. So as company secretary, you need to manage the chairman, the MD. You may need to have called them and ask one or two questions. If you are smart about that, you find out that you call a director, you call a chairman, you find out that what they say, that meeting today, we're going to bust everywhere. That meeting, nothing will happen there, we'll scatter every place. As a smart company secretary, you have heard that a director is trying to come and scatter meeting. Will you allow and wait for that meeting to scatter? No. You will take the initiative. If you need to call the chairman or call one person, I've talked to this man. Mr. Alaba is planning that meeting, as soon as he comes, is going to ensure that meeting does not hold. And once you've gotten that in, there are some things you'll be able to do behind the scene to manage the situation. By the time that meeting is going on, you as commission, you are looking at someone's eyes, you are managing everybody with your contacts and everything, body languages. that meeting can be held successfully. You have a lot of work to do. There are a lot of things you need to do behind the scene before that meeting. Even in the course of the meeting, you do a lot, but really the major work is behind the meeting. You would have done that before that meeting to be able to have a successful meeting. One more thing that is there is to know that, like I said, the company secretary is the thermostat of the meeting. You know what thermostat is now in your fridge. If the voltage is too high, it's cut off to prevent the engine from blowing up. That is the thermostat. That is how a company secretary is. You are the thermostat of the board. When that meeting is getting hot, as the meeting has started, you notice that the meeting is getting hot. If you need to slip a sheet of paper to the chairman, you probably are sitting close to the chairman and, please, sir, can we take 5 minutes break? Just say you think everybody should take 5 minutes break. Just a little note. The chairman will take a hint. And you don't have to wait until by the time someone starts pointing at each other in the meeting, you know that the thing is high. Once someone's voice is going on and you see that two people are arguing over themselves, it's time for you to just slip a note and say, Mr. Chairman, please, can we take a 10 minutes recess or 15 minutes? Can we go for a quick coffee and come back? By the time you do that, that meeting has calmed down. So I've said there that, of course, you can regulate the meeting by pushing for short breaks, adjournment, when it means to get rowdy. You don't have to allow situations to escalate. I've been in board meetings, I've heard of meetings that directors almost fought themselves. You don't have to allow those kind of things to happen. Once you see the sign, it's better you adjourn that meeting. Let that meeting just be adjourned. That it will be under your watch that people fight over themselves. Because yes, issues can really get heated up. I said it's the duty of the company secretary to explore all possible means to engage the relationship between the chairman and board of directors, the management team, regulator. You know, we're talking about how to manage the board meetings. You know that there are a whole lot of issues, depending on the kind of company. If it's a private company, the kind of issues you'll be dealing with coming out from that board meeting is different. If it's a PLC, it's different. If it's a government agency, it's different. So there's a whole lot the company secretary needs to do to prepare to manage that meeting. You may be dealing with, apart from directors I'm talking about, you may be dealing with management team. You may have some difficult senior management staff that are giving you headache, that are planning that this meeting will start. By the time we bring up this issue, we'll see how this meeting will go. You should be able to manage all that. What about the regulators? What if your company is in breach? What if you feel that the laws are being strict or you are being witch hunted? You should be able to manage relationship. You know that the company is coming and company secretary, you are the one they are seen as human beings. They are the face of the company. I have one of our colleagues that always relates with one of the regulators for our company. And she said at a point where they really, I think our company somehow was behind the books and they wanted to deal with them. But at some point she had built relationships so well with the regulators that when they went, the day she went there, they told her, these people, why did they send you? If not that you came, what would have done to these people? What would have done to these people? They would have gotten this license. So that's to tell you that the company secretary has a major role to manage affairs. The role of the company secretary is very deep and far-reaching because it's the face of the company secretary, the firm or the individual, that the regulators, the managers, the shareholders, the communities, that's the person they know. They don't know who is ABC Nigeria Limited. Then it's the people they see. So you have to have, in fact, if you know that you have a short temper, you don't know how to manage people, you may need to go and take a separate course for emotional intelligence, how to manage people, because you will need a lot of that skill and tact in the course of your work as a company secretary managing the board. So can we go to the next slide, please? So the purpose of this workshop, apart from these things I've said, is not really to bore you with theories. We're not going to talk about the definition, but these things I'm telling you, discussing with you, are going to be one of the key things that you will need in your work and your journey as a company secretary. To basically, the aim of this workshop is to unlock practical techniques, strategies, and systems that I'm sharing with you, that for you to be able to achieve the desired results from any board. To enable effective management of board meetings, the company secretary needs to be a person with strong influence and character. Who asked that question just now? That was saying, what if the board want to make you feel inadequate? Yes, Anybody can want to press on you, but you need to build yourself. You need to indeed build your confidence level. By the time they are doing all those things and they are saying that you are not perturbed, after a while, they will leave you alone. I remember one of our senior colleagues shared with me how he was on a board, and the chairman would keep changing his mini style. Today, he will say resolution format. He will write this one tomorrow. After a while, he made him know that, sir, please, this is how I write my minutes. This is how it's. And after a while, he got used to it. In fact, this was not a chairman, he was a director on the board. And normally when you are managing a board, it's the chairman that has a say. But there was this particular director on that board. Every now and then he want to change, keep picking up faults, picking up holes in the minutes. And after a while, when he complained, he just left it. And he said after a while, that particular director left those complaints because he kept on complaining about the format of the minutes. And of course, we'll talk about it. So our time is running. We'll talk about it. There are different formats of your minute writing. One will come there. So, but what I want you to know is that as a company secretary, you need to pay attention to your personality. You must build your personality, the strong person of character, integrity, tact, knowledge. You must pay attention to details. So from all the things I've said, you can imagine a company secretary that does not pay attention to details, that is scattered. What's scattered? You have a meeting at 10, 8 o'clock, you're still in your house. 9 o'clock, you're not complaining about traffic. Hello. If you are going for an interview in the US Embassy, they gave you 7 a.m. and you're living at Ikorodu, will you be on the road at 6 o'clock? No. You probably will go and do vigil there. So you need to take your work very seriously. By the time you pay attention to detail, you get all the documents. When the director tells you, I'll be traveling, around this period, I'll be on transit. And the MD or the chairman wants to fix a meeting around that. You should be able to know that, oh, I remember the last time we discussed, Mr. Lagbaja told me that he will be in transit on his way from Ilorin to Kapachan, and this time will not be good. You paid attention to detail. The man did not write you formally to say, I'll be on the road, but you remembered. You need to record details because you will need it in your work as a company secretary. Of course, details here also mean understanding the body language and mood of the board and its member. Yes, it can be within the board and outside the board. You must be able to read in between the lines. I've seen managing board meetings. I've had a situation whereby I went to execute some documents on for a particular company, and then one of the directors made a snide comment. You need to pay attention to detail. That comment, let's say that comment was made in 2015. But I noted that comment, I noted it down, and thank God I flagged it off. I hinted the chairman that this director, this is what he said concerning this thing. 5 years later, that comment he made concerning documents I thought we were just increasing check, and he said he made a snide comment. I noted it. 5 years later, though, in fact, around 4 years from that time, the reason why he made that comment started materializing. And at the end, that particular director had to leave that company. One way or the other, he was excused out. Because you, as company secretary, you are the eye, you are the watchdog, you are the one seeing everything. Of course, because they are used to you, they must have led out their guard. They won't really even know. Because what I'm talking about may just be body language. And you paying attention to those things can give you a lot of hints as to how to manage your board, how to avert issues that may be impending for the company. I said to be able to influence the organization. Company secretary must have, of course, you must have your act together. You must be versatile and start to be abreast in terms of the knowledge of the relevant laws of the industry. Next slide, please. Of course, I've talked about knowing your role. You have to know exactly what you have to know exactly what you are called to do for the company. If you are a staff, you have your terms of engagement. If you're a company, you have your terms of retainer. If you are a firm, you must know yourself. You must know what you stand for. You must also know your board. You must pay attention to what is going on the board. You must also seek to know them individually and as a group. Next slide, please. Next slide. So I'm saying there are a lot of things that come to mind here. Okay, I was talking about preparation earlier on. There are a lot of things that come to mind. And one of the things I want to talk about also before I continue from this slide is you need to prepare to manage your time. I'm going to run faster now because of time. You have to stick to the agenda. I have different appendices I will be sharing to you. Because of time, I will not be able to project the appendix. I'm going to give you 5 appendices. One is going to be a sample agenda with allotment of time. I have a sample I've drafted down for you, a sample of an agenda that you allot time for a 2 hours meeting. You need to be able to do that to be able to manage time. If not, some board members will come and they'll start gisting and telling you about their trip when you were in Toronto. That's not why you are here. If you want to listen to those kind of stories, you will have a 5 hours meeting. I remember when I started, I've actually had 9 hours meetings. And so they would gist, play. At some point, they will adjourn the meeting, will come back the next day. You don't want to have those kind of meetings. You don't want to have those kind of meetings. So I'm going to give you 5 appendices. You are going to have the allotment. Well, you are going to have the allotment, the agenda, the appendix with the sample agenda. I'm going to give you another agenda appendix. Is going to be sample of a board calendar, because these are part of the things that you need to plan your meeting. When I say manage time, because you can't come to a meeting that is rushed and then the directors, they are not ready. If they don't plan and know properly before that meeting, you will not have adequate attendance. So that's why you need to plan. So you note your board calendar, you note different formats of handling the meeting. I, for one, I have this thing I call the sample form for matters arising. So after each minute, before that meeting, I would have gleaned the likely issues that will be discussed. So you just bring it so it will be easy. So for them to start thinking, what is matters arising? You have already highlighted this. Sir, from the matters arising, we have 5 issues to be discussed. It will be there. That's the company secretary that has gone ahead to bring out issues so that we don't waste time. One of the ways you can also prepare to manage time is by reviewing the agenda items informally, of course, with the chairman. You may also need to confer with the director, the managing director, especially outside and before the meeting, not in the meeting. Before the meeting, you would have discussed with the chairman and ensure that, oh, he's fine with everything. And then you are done. So by the time you come to that meeting, you've allotted your time. So when you know that, assuming you allotted 15 minutes for discussion of relocation, and then 15 minutes have passed, they are not discussing the issue. Someone is not talking about his trip, how he met someone at the airport. You know how to just, you would have prepared short notes, like sheet of paper, where you easily slip to the chairman and say, sir, please, we're out of time on this agenda, next item. As a company secretary, you must be able to guide that meeting. If not, especially if you are someone that is much younger, usually in most cases, than the chairman and the director. You know, the other, the gentleman that was asking how a board that makes you feel irrelevant. Oh yes, it's when you don't have your acts together. When you have your acts together, why they are trying to do that, you would have prepared things like this to guide them. When they want to do those pushbacks, you direct, you lead the board. You just nudge the chairman. You are the one leading that meeting, but they don't know. You are just there doing your thing. You are passing your notes. Sir, please, it's time to go to agenda 4. We are done with this. We're taking the resolution. Next item. So I said you should think about it. Now, what's come to mind? There are a couple of slides there, and what I'm just trying to say in that slide is the fact that you need to know yourself. You need to know what exactly your roles are in that company as company secretary for you to be able to manage the meeting. There are some people that are employed for organization or retainers that they also manage HR. So you know the kind of issues you'll be dealing with. It may be that it's your own just to come and handle the meeting and you are going. You should know the kind of dealing with. Hello, are you still sharing my slide? Next slide, please. It seems we're having network glitches. So I'm going to be talking about how to manage meetings. One of the questions in it is about how to manage meetings in a technology savvy way in the wake of COVID. I said if the technology for person is not available. Admin, who are doing well, why they are trying to get the act together from, okay, good. Please, next slide. We're done with this slide. Okay. I've seen one of the questions talking about how do you manage late submission of documents. I hope because of time, we'll get there. So let's just flow. We'll get there. So how to manage board affairs. Remember that we're talking about board meeting, and for a company secretary to properly manage board meetings, he must be able to manage the board affairs and achieve best and desired result. You should study the company or the organization properly. You must make effort to know their history. How do you know their history? You must go ahead and study the past minutes of past board meeting. Now, depending on the organization, if it's an old company, you as the company secretary, you have to do the work. If you are part of a team, I have a colleague that is part of a team. She so distinguished herself. It's a federal government agency, and she's in the secretariat team. She wouldn't mind whether there are 6 or 7 or 10 in that department. She would take everything upon herself and study the minutes. She would go and study policies, study documents. So by the time they are come, she can easily guide in the meeting. When they say write resolution or write advice, seek an opinion, because she knows, she has history. So you can't say, oh, after I just joined, I'm an intern. No, you can be an intern and then you are industrious, and because of your industry, you won't be recommended. Of course, this particular colleague, I'm telling you the story. As I speak right now, she has been promoted. I think the last time I checked, she's like executive assistant to the group MD, the federal government parastatal. Why? Because from when she started, even as a part of a team, a very junior part of a junior level staff of that team, she took, in fact, they used to call her like Jackie. You know, when in an organization, this person likes to do all the work. She will read, she will do, she has won best start severally because she goes outside her way. The things people don't want to do. Can imagine joining a company that is older than you, and then you go and carry the minutes and start reading because you want to understand. So those are part of the things that will make you understand the history of the company, study the annual reports, study the various individuals and firms. If it's a big company, for instance, you may want to study the various stakeholders. What are they made up of? Who are their board directors? Who are their committee representatives? Depending, if it's a small company, you want to know the individuals. What are their family? What kind of family do they come from? Who is this person's husband? Who is this person's wife? How's this person's home front like? Why is this person like this? There are some things you know about the members of a particular board. It will make you empathic, even empathic about the person. Even if the person is treating you anyhow, you begin to pity the person that, oh, I understand. Maybe because this person is going through stress in the marriage, the husband has left her, or this one, the wife abandoned him, or the wife just died. Oh, probably that's why he's irritable. When you know a little bit more about people, it makes you sympathetic to their cause. You don't easily take offense. You just ignore them. You make excuses for them. I think that's the best word I would want to use. Next slide, please. Okay. I'm the one that will go to the next slide. You can remain there for 1 second. I note their preference. Yes, that's a very serious one. Depending, especially if you have senior citizens on your board. I have some boards that are senior citizens, and I'm doing email. Look, there are some people till today. In 2021, they still prefer documents. Someone was telling me, I think one of our colleagues was saying how she drove to go and give someone documents the other day just to sign. You send them email, send them reminder, oh, who signed? You're on your own. Until you drive there, they will not answer you. So you know some people's preferences. Some is through text message, some is through email, some will never talk to you. But when you send them email, they will respond immediately. You need to study them. Once you join an organization or you are working there, study the boss, study how they respond, and then follow them the way they want. If you need to go to their place or their office to get certain information, you have to make allowances for that. I said you apply the latest trend of organizing meetings. Yes, this COVID has happened on us and the world has changed. But yes, there are still some boards that they are not ready to have meetings. So how do you handle it? You have to make a case as company secretary. You have to make a case. If you need to get an IT consultant to do an IT audit, to tell them that, oh, right now for us to have effective meeting, the world is going ahead. For us to be able to be effective, we need this. You can imagine I'm having this training now via Zoom. I'm training from my office. If I were in Canada now, in US or UK or Abuja, the last time I traveled, I did my training from there. So the world has gone beyond someone trying to adjourn meetings just because someone is not in town, just because the person is not available physically. So you make them understand. I know that there are boards that at times the organizations, they don't have meetings 4 months. Why? The MD CEO is not around. Or one major shareholder is not around. Let's travel for vacation. No, the world has changed. I think after this training, if you are involved in that kind of organization, it's now your own duty to make a case and say, you know what, if you want us to have, next slide, please, if you want us to have progress, we need to put these things in place. Okay, can we plan to get these things together in the next 6 months or 1 year? And then can we also get trainings? It's very important because there are so many things that have come as to ethics and how to communicate, even with different media platforms. They need to know. We need to get retrained and retrained. So you as company secretary, you have to make a case for that. I say you must be on top of your game. So here I talked about board calendar for management of board meetings and board affairs. I talked about the board calendar. You have to, okay, I jumped that slide. I've talked about cultivating a good rapport with different directors and how it will pay off. I've also talked about having good rapport with the key actors in the organization for you to be able to get information and report from board of directors. Beautiful. So we can go to the next slide. I've discussed this slide before. So I'm now in the board calendar. For you to be able to manage your meetings properly, you need to, okay, are we skipping one more slide? Okay, I said the company secretary needs to work closely with the MD CEO of the company. I've discussed that before. As a rule, you should sit closely to the MD or the chairman during meetings. So a nice place to sit may be between the chairman and the MD. So depending on the position, but make sure you are close to the chairman so you can always slip notes. From time to time, you may want to liaise with the MD too. So you look at the strategic. If you are the one, normally you should be the one in charge of arranging the meeting venue, especially if it's a physical meeting. So you can strategically I place name tags for my physical meeting. So I put the board document, the file folders, and then I put names. This Mr. Akowonjo, Mr. Oshodi. This is where we see. So when they come, they already see, oh, Mrs. Adebimpe, this is where I'm sitting. You know, so you make things, you are the one in charge. So you need to take charge from the beginning so that someone does not put you on the edge. We've talked about working closely with the chairman and MD to plan agenda. I've also talked about allotments of time. I'm going to share that with you in the appendix. Yes, here I talked about the appendix 1C, where we're going to create a list of items to be discussed. And yes, we'll talk about action plan also when we're talking about the minute writing. Next slide, please. We've talked about tax, honestly, discipline, and you must bear in mind that the action or inaction of a company secretary goes a very, very long way. You cannot say, I don't care. It's not my role. After all, the agreement I signed is that I'll be taking minutes for this meeting, and then under your notes, a lot of things are going on, especially if you're a lawyer. A lot of things are going on, and you say, you do not care. Of course, by now, you know it's no longer business as usual. The company secretary right now can be held accountable. You can actually be prosecuted for happenings on a board. So you need to be very, very careful in the face of developing events in any board you are on, as it may lead to the progress or extinction of the company in the long run. I remember when I started my practice in 2009, in fact, one of the first boards I served on, I was invited to the EFCC. Come and write my story, what I know. Very funny. And I was there, I stood my ground. I said, I'm not going to divulge any information. The information they are asking for, they are in the minutes of the meeting. If they want it, they should write to the company. Let them go to court you give us a subpoena, the company, they will come and do, but I was not going to share. So as a company secretary, you need to be very, very strong. You must bear in mind that whatever is happening on the board, it has its ripple effects on you within that board and outside the board. So you have to be very careful. Of course, one of the things that will guide you in whatever you are doing on any company is the corporate governance code. So apart from what CAMA provides, you need to have your corporate governance code as your Bible. You need to eat it. So we're not dissecting the codes today, but one of the things the code provides for is management. The management of board cannot be overemphasized. The company secretary must study and appreciate the provisions of the code so that you are properly able to advise the board as issues arises. In the board, the code provides for management of board affairs. I've given you the different sections for business conduct and ethics, things you need to note, ethical culture. You need to go and study it after now. Look for the various sections in the code that speaks to the issue of management of board meetings. And I've put, there's an assignment there for you to try your hands on to mention 10 best practices that arises from the recommendations in principle 24 and 25. We're not going to take questions now. I'm done with this aspect of the management of board meeting, the part 1. I'll quickly rush through part 2 of the training, which is minute writing. Because of time, I've shared a case study there. You can try your hands on it after the training. By the time you receive the mail, you can try your hand on it and send it back. I can share feedback with you. There are assignments there, there are case studies for you to know the kind of issues and scenarios you can have in managing your board meetings. When you read those case scenarios later, when you receive the slide, you begin to prepare your mind on the kind of scenarios that can happen on you. Even as company secretary, you may not be aware. You may go for a meeting and then what you are seeing is a different thing. It's not being done according to the books. What are you going to do? That's why I said you have to be prepared psychologically before you attend any meeting, because anything can happen. And so it's only when you keep in touch with the directors and chairman outside the board meeting that you'll be able to know, you'll be prompted, you'll be intuitive to be able to know, oh, this likely trouble coming. So thank you very much. That's for that segment. This next part that talks about effective minute writing, how to write effective minutes, is going to be interesting. So I'll just have some few points to run down to you, just like a summary of what I want to say, because it's going to be short. Minute writing workshop is actually a practical thing, and I really want you to know it. It's a practical thing. I said the average company secretary may have had to deal with minute writing based issues, struggling to remember exactly who said what, resolutions, actions to be taken. I remember I think that was my second board. It was a microfinance bank when I started. At that point, I had not gotten this test. It was around my first board meeting, one of the first meetings minutes of meeting I took. I wrote it immediately. After a while, I began to be lazy. I will have a meeting, I will leave it 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. By the time you come back to that meeting, you've forgotten. Especially if you don't record it with audio tapes as I did. I'm talking about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. If you don't record it, you would have forgotten. I was struggling a lot initially until I caught the vision. And I knew that for you to be able to have effective minute writing, you have to plan and prepare to write it on time, real time. As the meeting is going on, you are writing. I said you should consider your worst experiences. I don't know. Does anybody have? I will just give only one person opportunity to speak. Can anybody give us an example of a worst experience, a very terrible experience he or she has had with respect to minute writing? Hello? Anybody want to share? You want to share an experience you've had covering a meeting,
maybe I
and then
maybe I should
you are
share.
lost. Yeah. Who is speaking, please?
Oluwatosin.
Okay, Tosin.
Okay. As my place of work, there's this desk that requires us to always do minutes like almost every day. If not, it's always very rapid. So I was asked to take up the role at a time, and I didn't like it because I somebody that was supervising me was always having to correct and kept correcting what I was doing. So I was just lost in the whole role, like what is actually going on. It's as if I'm not getting it. So I stylishly left that desk. Like, no, I don't want to be here. Because if I'm somewhere, I want to know my onions. I want to know why you're correcting so much. And what I'm putting out, you are not accepting it. Even if the correction is, yes, there's something like proofreading, yes, which I agree, but it shouldn't be every time. Like it should, you should see some improvements. That's, and when the improvement was not coming, so I just decided to leave that part of my role. So that's why I am so interested that I need to know my
Thank you
onions.
very much. If you were listening attentively, you would have remembered I shared the story in the course of the first part, when I said one of our senior colleagues shared with me his experience on a board. This guy is good. He's had over 20 years experience on the board. But this particular board, there's this director that always likes to push. He always finds fault. And remember, you know that all of us, we all have our different styles of writing. Even if, as we're speaking now, if I sing a song for you or I tell a story, if I give you that same script, Tosin, say that story, you find out that the way Tosin will replay that story will be different. The way Ine will repeat that story will be different. The way Tobechi will repeat. That is how our minute writing is. What we are discussing today is effective minute writing. You should know that as you grow in the practice, you find out that you have your style. Like this particular colleague, as we were saying, this director did not allow him to rest. And you know that there are strong personalities on certain boards. That you know that this guy just wants to. Guess what he did? He ignored him. He ignored him. He said because as far as he was concerned, the chairman was fine with his minutes. He was fine with his style of writing. Probably they've agreed on resolution based. You know, there are different types of minutes, narration, you can do narration or resolution. The man has agreed. Meanwhile, this other director will not be saying, why didn't you explain the story? I can't be explaining the story. If I start explaining, how many do you want us to have 50 pages?
50 pages, exactly.
You understand? So there are a lot of things you need to know. So what this training is about is to give you the basic. I just want to give you the formula, the skeleton, the framework. Once you have it for your minutes, for your meetings, you are good to go. If they call you today, come and write to me. As you are going for that meeting, by the time we are done with this few explanations, and it's very basic. Once you have it, I will send you the templates I'm going to share with you. Your next meeting, before you even go for the meeting, as far as you have the agenda, it makes your life easy. You just plan resolution 1, resolution 2, agenda, this is what person said, framework, action plan, this person to do this. You've planned everything down and it makes your life easy. So you don't go to that meeting and you'll be writing. The chairman cough, you write it cough. The other lady now says she wants pop and indomie during the meeting. You will write it down. No, we can never have any effective meeting like that. Next slide, please. What we are trying to talk about is just to give us the formula. So I want you to, this is just a guideline for writing a minute of a meeting. Of course, you have to know the purpose of the minute to capture the records of the meeting. Another big thing on the writing of the minutes, I want you to note that, yes, writing of the minute is beautiful, but guess what? What is the purpose of writing of the minute? It's for decision and execution. If we have several meetings and then after that meeting it ends there, it won't help anybody. You understand? What people say who you help, who would that meeting help? So you now write, you keep it. So I'm going to explain certain things to you so you understand that this whole management of board meetings, minute writing, it goes beyond minute writing. From everything I've been saying, you will understand that there's a whole lot of work you do. What you do within the meeting is just minute. to compare to the thing you need to do outside and after that meeting to ensure that that meeting actually is an effective meeting. So that's what we're talking about. So I'm just going to give you, of course, when I send the appendices, so there's a content and the layout, the participants. So of course, the people that will be in attendance of the meeting, of course, you have an agenda. Learn to stick to it. You know when you want to digress from an agenda, any issue that wants to come up, you just say, please, can that be discussed under AOB? Once you see that they are digressing, as a company secretary, if you know, I probably am not just woke up and I'm like this. It's all about years of practice and things I've seen. But you can build yourself, even if you are just starting today. Assuming you started your practice today, you are the one, you are going to be inducted next month or this month, and you are now in a board. And how? Let me just give you an expo. One of the quickest ways for you to build your confidence level, even when you're writing minutes and your dealings on the board, is by getting mentors. Look for people. And the Institute is a very beautiful place where you can easily look for mentors, individual mentors, people that have companies, where you share experiences. You understand? Stick to your agenda. Of course, I've talked about time management. Keep it short and simple. Use past tense, your choice of words. You understand? You are writing a minute of a meeting. It's record. It's not story. It's not love story. You not be writing. If the person cough, you put cough. No. You have to be very focused during that meeting. Someone may be saying 100 things in the meeting. After they finish saying 100 things, it's only 7 things you put down. You just pick out, glean out the information. And if I were you, what you want to be gleaning out is the action plan. Remember, I said the purpose of the meeting. There's a reason why that meeting was called in the first place. If it's a board of trustee meeting, like is it Tobechi or who asked the question about trustee meeting? If it's that, oh, they want to bring in new trustees or new directors of the board, there's a reason why that meeting was called. If it's that they want to raise capital, there's a reason why that meeting was called. There's a reason why that agenda item is being discussed. So when that item is being discussed, and you find out that the thing is now going haywire, my dear, you draw them back. So keep it short and simple. Use pattern in your thoughts of even in your writing. Be prim and proper. Be arranged. Read. And of course, for you to be able to know the right words to use, you must be an avid reader. You must be an avid reader. A company secretary right now, in fact, if I'm asked to describe a company secretary now, you are a governance person. You are all in all. You must be an avid reader, because it's when you read. When an item is being discussed, you listen to news, public affairs. When an item is being discussed on the board, by the time they go to Sokoto and come back, and go to Abuja and come back, you are just keeping quiet, because you know what you want to write is Alade Market and Ale roundabout with ShopRite. You just write 2-3 things. You are done with that resolution, because that is the decision you need to record. So I want you to know this in your choice of words. For an effective minute to be good, you don't have to write 100 words. Always put your ears, pay attention to the details of the main point. And if you are not sure, so that's why it's important. My brother that said, if they are trying to make you look irrelevant, always draw them back. Hello, sir, Mr. Chairman. We've been on this issue for a while. I need to record exactly what was decided on the last item. What I have down is the board decided that henceforth we are now going to use only Covido as our provider for energy services. Sir, is that okay? They will say yes or no. And so you know that thing I just read now, maybe it's like 2 lines. Meanwhile, that was what they discussed for 15, 20 minutes. You understand? So, but if you don't know, if you are not strong, you will allow them. In those days, I would not be writing. You would have written 5 pages. I remember 1 minute of meeting I wrote in my earlier time. It was almost 40-something pages. I can't even remember. Very long minutes like this. I was typing. You understand? So when you understand what you are doing, it's not just by many words. Keep it short and simple. Then use strong points. Emphasize the strong points. For instance, approved, resolved, approved subject to various amendments. When any issue is being discussed, any agenda, in fact, once you have an agenda, prepare yourself and know that just put resolution under. After they finish discussing, there's not, it's the resolution, it's what was approved, it's what was resolved, you want to know. That's what you write. Next slide, please. So practical steps, of course, we've talked about this earlier on. You must arrive earlier. You know, if you don't arrive early, you can see how this place is now. Assuming it's an hotel, this could have been an hotel, a meeting room in Radisson, for instance, or Oriental. You understand? If you can't, as a company secretary, be getting to that meeting before you now wait, and all the directors or majority of them are sad, and you not be coming in. No, because you ought to have been there, settled everything concerning refreshment, depending on your role, whether you are supposed to be part of the one person arranging refreshment, even if you are not the part. I've been in meetings whereby the board, whereby the company, the admin staff of the company, they are the ones in charge of providing refreshment to do book the whole. I have an idea of the cost, and I'm giving the notifications that, oh yes, they paid. But I always check, okay, so what's on ground? How is the service level going to be? How many ushers are waiters are going to be offered to serve us in our room? Is it 2? Is it 3? We're going to be a 15-man meeting. How many people? There are certain questions you ask. You don't start a meeting and then everybody is disheveled. They are looking for water to drink. You don't have a meeting and then the chairman or the director wants to ease himself. You are not sure whether it's that or there's toilet. He will not be walking to the main hall to go and ease himself. So those parts of the venue, of course, we've talked about it earlier, is very important for you to even be settled to write any effective meeting. What I'm talking about, a framework, skeleton, a draft. If you don't arrive early, you'll be disheveled, you'll be disoriented. When you are in that meeting and they are saying something, your mind will not be there. You'll be feeling unsure, lack of confidence, insecurity will want to kill you in that meeting because you will not be sure, because you already feel, you know, when you already dealt a bad food, you're already feeling bad. These people will be looking at me bad. I remember one of our colleagues shared a story many years ago, I think 2012 or so, as to how she went for a meeting very late. And it was a very sorry experience. I think she said she was stuck in traffic and very bad experience. And after that, I'm sure she vowed, if possible, she will probably sleep on the venue of the meeting. So these are part of the things you need to know. Prepare, plan to arrive earlier. It's better you arrive earlier, 2 hours earlier, than for you to be late. So you have to know that. Next slide, please. Practical steps. Okay, now this this minute we're talking about, you need to target for minutes of meeting. From after this training, your target is that you write your minutes 24 hours to 48 hours after the meeting, but never later than 72 hours. It cannot be business as usual. I've turned in minutes of meeting the same day. The reason is that by then, all the events that transpire will still be very fresh in your memory. Who said what? Various resolutions. You may not need to be calling MD or calling one person to ask, sir, please, can you remind me? You understand? And remember, even this issue of please, can you remind me? I've hinted you earlier on how to do it. You have to be confident. As I'm writing, if I'm not sure of anything, and I'm done, hello, sir, I will draw them back. Even if they've gone to the next item on the agenda and I'm recording and I realize that the way I wrote this resolution, I'm not sure. I'm like, hello, excuse me, sir, sorry to take you back. Under agenda 22, I recorded that the board agreed that the board will go for training at Dubai. Is that what was agreed? If I'm not sure, I will get confirmation on the board. Don't think that if you are a quiet lamb, you understand, peaceful, the company secretary that does not ask, she takes notes, he takes notes very well. Everything he knows, it doesn't ask questions. That is not how you'll be effective. If you are not sure, ask, draw them back. You are the purpose, you are the reason why the meeting is being held. It's because of you to be able to take record, to record the proceedings of that meeting. So if it's just like if you are in court, for instance, and the judge is not taking notes and you are talking. So you should know that in that meeting, as the company secretary, you are like the judge, because it is whatever you record. You really need to even know the importance of a minute of a meeting. The minutes of a meeting can mark or make any company. The minutes of a meeting and how you write as company secretary can be the reason why a company can get investors, because of how they write, how they take records. So it's very important. So I was talking about the time that your target should be 24 to 48 hours. Is very possible. But next slide, please. By the time we are done with the framework, you will understand why. So I said, draw up a framework for the minute. How if for instance, if I'm the one doing it, it is a longhand meeting. That means I'm writing. I have my sheets. I have my pen. minutes of meeting of ICSAN graduates graduating in 2021. I would have written it. Dated Friday 18 at 10 a.m. Venue, Elephant House, Alausa. I would have written down one. In attendance, I already know before the meeting, I've gotten acknowledgement from about 15 people, and let's say we're 20, that they are going to come in. They are going to come for that meeting, physical meeting. 3 of them have already called in sick. They've sent apology. I don't have to wait until when I get to that meeting has started. I will not be writing attendance. No, just make your life easy. You already have this thing. Another easy way to do for attendance sheet, if depending on your organization, how you do it, you may get a sheet. Once they come, just pass it. Everybody will write the date, time, they will sign. They've signed in. After that one, you collect your attendance. Your apologies, you already have it. So for your framework, you already have it. Then you see it when I say attendance. So you may already have some names that show banker. For apologies, you already have 1 or 2, 3 persons giving you apologies. Someone has already told you he's on vacation, he's not in town, he cannot come. You don't have to wait to start wasting time to be writing inside that meeting. No, you prepare yourself. And so I'm talking about longhand. Next slide, please. If it's soft, so most of us who are technologically savvy, we know how to use our iPad, tab, and you can write. There are a lot of devices, you know, they are available now, like a laptop, a mini tab, where you can actually write on your device with your pen. So you can just write straight away, and immediately you finish, you convert it to Word, and your minute is done. So you don't have to wait. So you do the framework. It's going to be an appendix I will send to you, how you have like your drafts already prepared. So if it's hard copy, if it's paper, if I were the Word, I would have put the space. I would have put the space on it. Maybe I'll put attendance. I'll put the space, the name. I'll just fill in the gap. I'll put the agenda. Matters are rising. I'll put it. There are another thing that can also help you in terms of writing your minutes properly. Like I mentioned earlier, that before the meeting, that last, assuming you have a previous meeting, you would have looked at the minute, looked at the agenda, and then from every issue that was discussed, you look at turbulent matters that may arise and just glean it out. It may be 5 matters arising from the last meeting. Remuneration of staff, increment of salary, or suspension of staff. You would have said, draw 1 or 2, 3. So immediately they finish reading the minute. The next thing is, what do you say? Matters arising. Say, sir, the matters arising from this meeting. Once the minute is adopted, there are 5 issues. Can we take it one after the other? Once they finish at item 1, suspension of staff, you take the resolution, you note it down. So you would have written the matters arising under the framework for the matters arising. So you don't have to wait. Because if you don't take the initiative, I had to do this over the years. If you don't take the initiative, your minutes will even be scattered. You go to a meeting that, I've been in a particular meeting where matters arising started. Let's say the minute now, let's say agenda 1 to 7. Normally they're supposed to start from agenda 2. One director will want to start from agenda 8. And you know how the thing will be confusing. By the time you now record agenda 8 first, by the time the next one you go to agenda 3, someone will now bring it to agenda 7. The thing was so confusing. You know, most of these things that will come up with, it's out of long years and months of suffer. So one day my brain just rebooted. I said, what kind of thing is this? This people cannot continue to make my life miserable. I took the initiative. I said, you know what? After doing that minute, I will draw the matters arising out. I'll look at it critically, all the issues that don't come up. I will not tell them matters arising. 3.2, relocation. 3.4. So I would have been speaking with the chairman to prompt him to say, sir, let's take it one after the other. Oh, the company secretary, she has done a beautiful work. She has taken the liberty to even give us the draw the matters arising. Of course, everybody would have been asked to go through the report. Any issue, they'll say, oh no, they adopted, they are fine. They would have gone through the minutes to say they are fine. So guess what? In that, doing that, I've saved my time. Unlike before, I would be there, they will not be going through and reading and coming up with all sorts of story. And just imagine what I said. If there are 8 items, normally you want them to discuss number 2 first. They will not start with number 11, confuse my minutes. I will just be turning my page up and down, you know, that kind of thing. So when I took the initiative, I saw that it started making my minutes very orderly and organized. It makes my life very easy. My minutes are so seamless. I will share that little template with you. I don't know, I'll just come up with something. So you just see how you can build your matters arising. So it's a document on its own. So I was talking about the framework. I said, consider those that will be present, drop an agenda, then resolution. So I talked about one way to a great way to write the minutes of meeting, to know the resolutions for the meeting. For instance, it could be an appointment of a new director, prepare deliberations on the issues, important to know. So, you know, definitely there'll be deliberations on the issues. Some of those deliberations, not all of them are important. If there's any important point that was said, you can just note it, maybe leave 3-4 lines for anything you need to note. But what you are looking for to note is whether the board resolved, finally agreed that what this Mr. Lagbaja should be appointed as the board of directors. You should have written it down. Is it that they agree or they do not agree? Next slide, please. So your resolutions, you would have planned it, you would have done your draft, and since you already know, then you also note things to note in that meeting. Apart from resolution, matters for approvals or ratification. It may be that as company secretary, you know that certain steps were previously taken that needs ratification of the board or the committee. You would have brought it up for the board to ratify the appointment of the external IT consultants. It could be anything. You bring it up for approval. You may also be aware of pending issues like sale of old vehicles. You bring it up. So it's the duty of the company secretary. How you know? You look at the minute, because I've been in board before where you leave this thing and you say, let the MD come up with agenda. And then they come up with agenda. By the time you go and look at your previous meeting, you find out that this agenda, it did not relate, does not relate to the last meeting. So as company secretary, you have to be on top of your game. You need to be able to guide. And you see some of these things I'm saying, the agenda, you find out that a lot of things that I'm even discussing for you to have your framework, how to write effective meeting, will happen before the meeting. So you need to pay attention to detail. You need to pay that attention in the meeting for you to write effective board meeting. If not, if you are just there and you think that for you to write board meetings, for you to carry biro and paper, you just go to the meeting, find out that I've seen those kind of minutes whereby you read the minutes and there's no content. You read the minutes and you're like, so what was the purpose of this meeting? No decision, no resolution. You don't want to have that kind of meeting. Next slide, please. So of course, you note any other business. So you'd have prepared yourself properly and note any other business where issues here under information, wedding friend, etc. So you would have prepared. Remember I said you would have prepared a framework. So you would have, what it means is, if it's a plain sheet of paper, I would have had different sheets where I put AOB, or if you have a note, if you keep a note for that particular company, you would have written it. So when that time is, you are not writing longer, you just write it, close it. Of course, you note that whether the meeting was adjourned, whether the person that raised the motion, the person that seconded, the person that did the closing prayer. You note all those things. So your framework is already there. The meeting thereafter dash said the closing prayer. So you would have, if you want to put a draft, you can just say dash said the closing prayers at dash dash dash. So when you are in the meeting, you only just to be adding, it's just to be filling the gaps. So you don't want to go to the meeting and start writing. No. Please, next slide, please. So things to note before the meeting. I said before the above, ensure that the board meeting documents are ready. If there are soft copies, first of all, agree. I was on a particular board where we had to agree at some point that it will only be soft copies. At some point, that was about 3-4 years ago, they had to come to the decision. So because you keep preparing board papers, they'll file. I wonder at times where these directors go home, where do they keep these things? And these days, every information is on the cloud. We have to agree. So you have to note your body, things to know, whether the documents you want to forward in a folder, they are going to be hard copies or soft copy. When we started, it used to be board. I have my board files, document folders, depending on the kind of company, big or small. You have different board packs you drop in front of their seat. But now, as of today in 2021, even since last year, things have changed. Since the last 2-3 years, everything we do when we are doing meetings, you send your folders online. So if you are probably like me that like to do hard copy at times, you just, what you see individual directors printing their own, coming to the board, and the rest that are IT savvy come with their tab, because everybody's trying to save the environment. You can use a notebook and pen. If you are part, of course, I say you can also use a tab. With this tab, you are sure that your meetings can be ready. Next slide. please. So one of the point, okay, before the challenges, okay, I have some challenges there. I want to run through, I will just run through some things that I at some points I said you should note. It's not on this slide. I can still share that with you. As I've discussed about preparing yourself physically or virtually, devices, in terms of devices, because I'm interested about that question Ine asked about how to handle board meeting in an innovative way. You have to inform the meeting before you start when you are recording at any point in time, because now everybody's recording with phone, recording with devices. Let them know. Some may even be doing video recording. For instance, we're doing Zoom now. You know this is being recorded. It's just out of courtesy, professional courtesy. You need to let them know we are recording. Then if you are writing longhand, get a mini framework like the appendix 2 I'm going to send to you. If you are doing with your computer, iPad, it's faster to fill up. So once you already have the framework that will send, if you are there and you are writing your task, it's faster for you. You can even finish the minute there and there. Before they enter their car, they've gotten it in their email. So they will know that, you are not joking. You didn't come here to come and play. You are a chartered secretary. So, this is no longer business as usual. Who is in that thing? You mean while I'm on Third Mainland Bridge, I've not even left Sheraton, I've seen my minutes. Let them know that, yes, that you actually got trained. And it can happen if only you will be serious with it. Another thing you need to know, apart from preparing yourself virtually for devices, is board decision for actions. I will also send you an appendix. I've called that appendix 3. You can use, so when you are writing, assuming you are writing longhand, at times I use asterisks. I can just use AP. AP is action plan. If an issue is being discussed and I'm writing, and I know that this thing is a strong point for me to note, I can just underline it. I may use my red pen or asterisk, or just put AP. I put IP and write. So immediately that minute is finishing, I already have my action plans. I don't have to look for it. I'm just looking at the sheets, looking at all the places where my asterisks are, or my AP, or my red pens. I go. I know that at the end of the meeting, 7 things. So while they are leaving, they are still meeting and greeting, and I've sent it. Another thing you need to, another effective tool for you to manage your board meeting, you may need to have a WhatsApp group or a group email, a platform where once you send one message, everybody sees it. It may not be easy at times to start calling 20 people. So you just have a platform for quick information. This kind of action plan, for instance, yes, you may take the liberty send to their emails, but you must have a group, a WhatsApp page. You just quickly put it to prompt them and send to their individual pages. You have to do a lot of communication to be able to manage meetings. And for the action plan, you have to target to send it not more, at most 48 hours. Because if you take these tips and you internalize it very well, you should be able to send your action plans, board decisions for actions immediately after that meeting. After the board decisions for actions, do you just send the WhatsApp and you leave it? No. The board decisions for actions are all the resolutions, all the strong points that we're taking. So after the meeting, I'm saying that for you to effectively manage that meeting, because I'm not just all about, this is not all about writing minutes. Remember I told you, after you write the minute, what happens? Is it you go and keep it and then they will execute and come back after 3 months and have another meeting again and drink tea and eat rice? No. So the company secretarial role has gone beyond that. So we have now stepped into the governance aspect to ensure that indeed the purpose of that meeting is achieved. What do? You follow up. How? Calls, WhatsApp, messages, anyhow you know how best to communicate with the person. You communicate to ensure that the people that are assigned to do those particular tasks, they are earmarked in the action plans. For instance, action plan by Sophia. Sophia to do what? Call the DG of NAFDAC and discuss the pending issue, or visit the DG of NAFDAC or the Commissioner of FRS to discuss our tax issues. Action plan. After that meeting, 24-48 hours. Hello, madam. I just want to confirm if you've actually scheduled the appointment to go to NAFDAC before the end of the week as the meeting agreed. Phone call. She's not picking. She's a busy executive. Send her a WhatsApp message. Send her a message. Send her an email. By the time she sees disturbance, she will see you in her dream and she will do the assignment. Circulation of the minutes. Of course, the next key thing you need to know for effective minutes writing, circulation of your minutes. And this should not, I will not, after this training, 72 hours is too far. I just want to allow you rest. But it shouldn't be more than 72 hours. If you are lazy and you are in this class, it shouldn't be more than 1 week. You understand? I just say lazy because a lot of things could have come up. It shouldn't be more than 1 week. You must circulate your minutes immediately. Because the reason why you circulate, of course, that minute you are following up with action plan. You've already drawn out the action plan. They've seen it. They start working on it. But they need to see that minute immediately to refresh their mind. And so when you circulate the minutes, you need to now, of course, before you circulate the minutes, you need to clear with the MD and the chairman, especially for any amendments or correction. Once it's done, you circulate. And guess what? You do not drop the ball. You continue to follow up. After you send that minute, you are following up with your action plan. You follow up, continue with calls, continue with your emails, prompt the chairman. If you find out that this is 1 week, the tasks that were assigned, you are not getting feedback, nobody's saying anything, call up the chairman. If you need to call an emergency board meeting, if you need to do a conference call, depending on what is at stake at that point. I've been in boards that they held meetings and they said, do something nobody did. Before you look at it, the company folded up. So when they said the company secretary should step up, at times, yes, we say, oh, after all, I'm just on retainer, I'm just working here. They didn't ask me to do this. But there's nothing as painful as when you know that you can do something. You could have pushed harder, probably could have averted this thing. So do your best. So that if after your best, it doesn't work out, you'll be satisfied that you gave your best in that company and during that situation. I hope these few points help. I'll send that to you, the points to note for minute writing. There are some challenges. Some challenges I noted from minute writing experience is that some management or board committees may insist minutes of meetings to be written in narrative form instead of resolution-based format. I've talked about that. I've also talked about the time management. In commencement of meetings, some meeting may drag longer. One of my first meetings, I remember some allies used to come from Kano. It was an automobile company. You know, I had a meeting. The chairman, the director, I think chairman was from Kano, then flew in. They will just come eat lunch. After maybe 1 or 2 hours, they'll tell you they are going. After they collected allowance. I'll be like, I was just starting. I'm like, so what did these people come and do? Is it like they just flowed away from Kano to come and take lunch and collect maybe whatever, how much they were being given as their allowance? You understand? And they take a whole lot of time telling stories. Because of course they are high-level power people, senators, former governors, or whatever. So those are part of the challenges. And of course, if you internalize what I said about management of time, how you manage your board, how you hold your chairman, and you are strong as the company secretary to give hints and direct work as the thermostat, God helping you, you will not have these kind of challenges. Next slide, please. We're almost done. I just want to run through the challenges. Of course, late collation, sending of minute paper. I think handle board meeting is salient, so we can say, okay. I think someone asked a question, maybe from the chat. I saw something. Okay, maybe not here, maybe from the chat. I know I saw a question that talked about delay in the chat. Someone had asked that question where people send you directors. It may not just be directors, even senior management staff, stakeholders, they send you board documents late. So it makes things very difficult for you because as company secretary, you are the one that's supposed to do your checklist and everything. Those can be part of the challenges. So you also have to keep in touch with the stakeholders, the people that supply you documents. If it's for AGM, for instance, annual returns, you need to be talking closely discussing with the auditors to ensure that they meet the time. Of course, you know that the workload of the secretary is usually burdened with several assignments at a time. So it's part of the challenges of the practice of company secretarial practice of managing board meetings and minute writing. Next slide, please. We've talked about being prepared, documents, and one of the things you need to know is to come with your laws. You'll guide yourself with your folders of files of past minutes, your laws, corporate governance code, karma, if it's a particular industry, the industry policies, because you may need to refer to them in the course of the meeting. Another thing you may need to refer to from time to time, your memorandum of association, always have it handy in the course of a meeting. Because for instance, there may be an issue on the minutes or for a resolution, the issue of decisions, resolution, you may be able to take a decision whether you can go on or not, or whether you even have the quorum to take that resolution at that point. So have all these these are the recommendations. You should be prepared for meeting, have your laws, your codes, your articles, your minutes handy in hard or soft copy. Next slide. So you find out if anybody requires any document in the course of the meeting. And of course, you know, you must be punctual to the meeting. We talked about that. At least an hour to the time, you must be there. Next slide, please. So recommendation, I said you must try, the company secretary should always keep in touch with head of committee's chairman. Basically keep in touch with all the stakeholders, from senior management staff to the chairman, directors, keep in touch. You need them for your life to be smooth, for you not to be frustrated. You need them. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is a conclusion with the presentation above. I hope you are sufficiently equipped to turn in your next minutes of meeting around less than 24 hours. So after this webinar, I'm going to forward you 5 appendices. I have another word, so we may call it appendix 6. Documents where you have templates of drafts of action plan, matters arising, board calendar, how you can work around it to make your life easy as a company secretary to manage a board and for effective writing. Thank you very, very much. Next slide.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Now, can we quickly take 3 questions? Let's first of all start with reading what we have on the chat. Our time is far spent. We can just read what we have on the chat. And then let's see. Admin, are you going to read what we have on the chat?
Yes, ma'am, I'll do it.
So Tobechi had said what are the salient information to be contained in the board minutes. We've dealt with that. How do you manage timelines, especially in the wake of late submission of board documents to management staff? It's an emotional thing, an emotional intelligence thing, the personal relationship thing. One of the best ways to manage that is you check on them earlier. So I'm working for a company right now, and the auditor wants to stampede me and say, come and sign documents. Meanwhile, I've not had 1 week to go through the report. So you prompt them earlier. You look for the people, not the people, the sectors, the stakeholders are giving you documents, and you prompt them earlier and you tell them, if you know you need it in within 1 week, tell them you need it in. You need at least 3 weeks to review. In a saying thank you. Skills and patience of you must know your onion, of course.
And Akiwumi says, I want to ask if there's a distinction between the role of board secretary and company.
Hello?
Can you hear me, ma?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, yes, I was reading the question. I said, Akiwumi said, I want to ask if there's a distinction between the role of board secretary and company.
You were reading. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I was reading a question from Mr. Akiwumi, and he was asking for the distinction between the role of board secretary and company.
The role of board secretary and company.
The distinction between the role of board secretary and perhaps it means board company secretary.
Akiwumi, you need to, are you trying to say an individual company secretary or a firm? But what do you mean by board secretary? Like someone that has an appointment to be secretary of a particular board or an individual? I think the way
you can rephrase your question and drop in the comments.
Yes, I think you should rephrase it. It's not clear. Can you take another question?
Question from Tina is, how can a meeting be
Can I speak up? Do I just drop it in the box?
Drop it in the box so we can take others.
Yes, please. Tina said, how can meeting, how can a minute be detailed and concise at the same time?
Of course, let me just treat that immediately. A minute of a meeting can be detailed and concise at the same time. Remember, I said keep it short and simple. Keep it short. Someone once told us in school that your answer should be as short as a mini skirt, short, long enough to cover the subject matter. You understand? It should be short but long enough to cover the subject matter. So you know what the subject matter is. But it shouldn't be too long. So that's what you should bear in mind. Keep it short and simple. You can be a bit detailed. And then resolution. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. So Ebere Amaru asked, for a small company, can conversations on the board of directors or company's WhatsApp group page without any attention to formalities qualify as a valid meeting? Can decisions made there serve as resolutions without being formally so called?
Well, before now, you know, I wouldn't encourage that. I wouldn't. If you want to have a board meeting, have a proper board meeting. And a meeting can just be called. Even these days, it can be on Zoom, via WhatsApp. During COVID, I had a board meeting on WhatsApp. Instead of having that chat on WhatsApp, why don't you have a meeting? It can be 4 people conference call. And then the company secretary is taking, I wouldn't. So if, you know, before now, yes, a lot of people did a lot of things. But right now, with the wake of technology, a lot of things can be done. And remember that you are a company secretary, you are a chartered secretary, you are a professional. So the way the tailors, marketing men will do their things, you shouldn't encourage it. When something is being said, okay, sir, even if, you know, a meeting can actually be held on WhatsApp. We've had meetings like that in those days. And so, okay, we'll be discussing, but let that meeting be done formally. Let there be an agenda. Let there be 5 minutes of deliberation. So the 5 minutes or 30 minutes of deliberation, the agenda is there. Everybody will put their decisions. Let it be. So if it's done orderly, yes, it can be taken. If it's done orderly. But she said without being formally so called. So that's the contradiction. Can the decisions made there serve as resolution without being formally so called? So if you want, yes, of course, you can have resolutions. So such resolutions can then be approved. You understand? Can then be ratified in a proper meeting. Am I being clear, Ebere? So it's neither here nor there. So it depends on how you want your board to run. If it's a small company, yes, you can have some conversations on the platform, and by the time you have your formal meeting, you ratify it, and it works.
Thank you very much, ma'am. So the next question from Usman is, I'd like to know how you correct a decision taken which has been written and adopted in a minute and is found to be against the law or regulations.
I would like to know how you will correct a decision taken which has been written and adopted and found to be against. The only way to correct the decision is to resign the decision now. Is to nullify. The board agrees that they are now in error and they are no longer in that position. You have taken it back now. If you were doing something and the board agrees that, okay, henceforth, we're not going to pass Ikorodu Road again because that road has been banned. So you just take it back. You can now state it in the next meeting that it has been found that that particular position is against the law. The board has resolved that that position here for henceforth is changed to this today. So you can change it by the same recording in the same minutes. You can't undo what has already been done. You can't go and tear the minutes. It's there.
Eloma, can I speak concerning that?
Yes.
Like what it means, he's saying that how can you recite a decision that has already been, that a decision that the board has been taking or a resolution that has been reached, which that is found to be against the law. Most of our meetings and we find out that the board might reach a resolution or reach a decision, and it will be against either corporate governance practice and or against karma, even with the advent of the new karma. So what you do is to call the attention of the chairman first. You call the attention of the chairman to it and say, this particular decision reached by the board goes against also provisions of the law of CAMA or of the corporate governance code. So you make the chairman to see, and the chairman may even reason with you and say, okay, since it goes against, is there any way, or what are the implications, what are the things that if they go ahead, then you explain to the chairman. Then sometimes if it cannot, if the decision is a decision that has to be in practice before the next board meeting, that it cannot be brought up, then you go by circularization and circularize that the board, not on your own changing the minutes. You have to draw the attention of the board, either through the chairman, who first of all communicate with the chairman, then you circulate to the board via mail, and all of them will approve and recite their resolution. Then you can also use a written resolution to give another resolution through circularization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Usman. That's clear. The question wasn't that clear, but how you now explained it as to, for instance, a decision against CAMA, excellent. So if it's something ongoing in the board, then you can draw your attention. But if it's the attention of the board here and there to rescind the decision, but if it's something that is already passed, of course, it's not by mouth anymore. The best way for record purposes will really now be by secularization. I adopt that answer. That's good. So I will just react to Funmi Willoughby's question that the answer on how to resolve the issue of some directors requesting that minutes be in narrative form instead of resolution based is not clear. Now, basically, what I'm trying to say is to prepare your mind that for you to manage board meeting, not everybody will ever agree with your style of writing. What you need to do before to have peace of mind is to go and meet the chairman. The chairman is the leader of the board and is the first person you are reporting to, and ask, sir, which style of minutes would you prefer? Is the chairman that will now tell the board that, okay, we've discussed, I prefer for me to understand faster narrative format or resolution based. Whatever you discuss with the chairman, that is the one you will stick with. So this chairman cannot agree with you to do resolution, and another director will not be agreeing with you to asking, putting you under pressure to do narration based. You can't do that too. So that's what you need to agree whilst you are new on the board at some point, and you have to be diplomatic about it. I'm not saying you should go and quarrel with the director fighting you, but it's just diplomacy, and I believe God will give you tact to handle that. I'm already trying to prompt you for you to know that you have issues of people not agreeing with your style of writing. Get used to that. But you must be confident with yourself. So apart from the style, the managing the chairman likes, you yourself, you must know yourself to know, okay, which style do I prefer? What am I comfortable in writing? Like me, I prefer the KISS style to be a bit detailed and concise. That's how I prefer my minutes. I don't like to write too much. So that once you look at it, you'll be able to know not too much stories. So you must know what you want and then what the board write. But a good minute shouldn't be too long and too short. It should just be detailed and concise.
Yes, ma'am. So thank you. So Mr. Akiwumi has already rephrased this question. So he's asking, is there a distinction between the role of company secretary and board secretary? Question is based on appointment as board secretary, yet the microfinance bank expecting to act as company secretary and legal advisor.
Well, if it's within an organization, first of all, you look at your letter of appointment. You understand? So some people are just appointed as company secretary, and if they're also a lawyer, some of these companies, they want to use one stone to kill two birds, and they'll say, I will use him for this and that. So these days, lawyers are getting smarter. The role of the company secretary is very, very different from the role of a legal advisor. You understand? From all the things I've said, if you are in the same spirit and you are flowing with me, you will see that I don't even see myself anymore as a company. I see myself as a governance consultant because it's a whole lot. So right now, it's in between the two. It's in between the two. So if a company employs you and calls you company secretary, and then your letter of appointment, they just write 3 lines. Meanwhile, in reality, what you are doing is 50 things. You are doing legal advisor work, you are doing opinion, and you are not being paid for that. Then you have to rethink it. So people are getting wiser, companies are getting smarter. And so if you find that in recent times, Companies are now actually employing legal advisors separately and company secretaries separately in recent times because they're beginning to see the difference in the role. So I don't know if you are just asking for someone or if you are in the position. So how to resolve this kind of thing is to look at your appointment letter. I, for one, I work as a firm. So my firm, there are some companies that come and they say they want to retain us as company secretaries. We look at them and we laugh. Some would say it's legal advice, they want legal advice. But one thing I don't agree is for someone to come and do a retainer with me as company secretary, and you are trying to call me to come and act as a legal advisor. It will not work. So we only put one or two clauses and say we can give you one or two freebies just because we are here. But once you begin to cross that line, we tell you, look, the reason why we are here is a different contract. If you want this service, pay for it. If not, feel free to go and get someone else. So, you know, people always feel they are smart, but remember that you are a professional now. So for you to be able to get the best out of your profession, you have to know your onion. You have to know what you are worth. You have to know your cost, the price of what you are worth in the labor market for you to be able to actually ask for what you rightfully deserve. Thank you very much. I think we are done. Our time is fast spent.
Yes,
we've done about 2 hours. I've looked at all the questions that were asked in the beginning. I believe that we are able to handle everything, getting the salient information to be contained in board meeting, how to handle board meetings in innovative ways, how to handle board, someone that makes you feel adequate. I've told you to be sure of yourself, to be confident, to work on your confidence level, and to work as the thermostat of a board. You must learn how to be able to, even no matter how young you are, now that you know that, okay, these people have the tendency to push me over, work on it by reading things. And I've told you, one of the expos you get is by getting mentors. Look for mentors, discuss with people. Whatever you are going through on any board, there's nothing new under the sun. There's someone out there that will give you all the solution you need. Thank you very much. I hope I've not bored you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We can say without missing words that it's the coming together of practice and theory. We've benefited from a whole lot of information and ideas that you've garnered over the years. We are indeed very grateful for the opportunity. So on behalf of the CEO of our institute and other stakeholders within the Secretariat that have helped in organizing this program, our team from the training unit, we want to say a big thank you for all you have done to make today's program a reality. The back-end talk, the commitment, we know we pushed you a little bit, but tolerated us. We are indeed very grateful. And to our esteemed participants, we thank you for being part of this program. We're about 30 or thereabout on the call, and then virtually everybody is still here. It's an indication of the fact that they all find this discussion very useful and important, and they've stayed all the way to the end. We thank you all for being patient, and we thank you for being part of the discussion. The class was actually a very lively one because there was lots of questions asked even before the program commenced and while the program lasted. Dear participants, thank you for your participation.